Today's guest is Ted Miller III. He's the CEO of TM3. Ted, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, mate.
Yeah, so I'm happy I came across your profile. I know you work with Chet Holmes in the
Oh
past.
yeah. Boy, if you guys have you read this one?
I have probably one of the most underrated books I know. I mean, it's fantastic.
I don't know. I always hear the fans. They're always telling me how your late partner just crushed it and changed their world and their business. And yeah, he was my buddy, like my ride or die buddy, kind of thing. Uh, just 10 year, well, 14. I was first his client. I paid
Oh,
40 grand of money I could not afford to get help, but I didn't hire him. I hired a guy named Jay Abraham. And this guy was like super strategy, but I wasn't learning how to implement any of what Jay was saying. He was saying the same things like 15 different ways a Sunday. I'm like, hey man, I'm just, knucklehead has made his way, out of the mud, the concrete mud from a construction background. So I'm like, you're going to have to explain something to me in English. So he turned me on to Chet Holmes and the fast growth strategies, they all work brilliantly. 2 years, 100% rate of growth at learn.com, the online education platform, leveraging what I learned. Jay Abraham strategies implemented in Chet style. And then little did I know I'd partner with that guy until his passing. So, yeah, we served a lot of people, 250,000 clients. That's $100 million in business coaching consulting over the years before he passed.
yeah. I mean, I've read Chet's stuff. I highly recommend it. But if for people that haven't read it yet and that are gonna read it, what are the thumbnails? What are the
Oh,
things that come up?
well, I mean, it's the good news about this book is that it's broken down in a modular level, meaning a chapter. If you got a challenge on how to recruit sales talent, go to that chapter. Hey, I need to learn how to become a strategist in the marketplace. We seem to be in another recession. I mean, just look at it. There's more money. There's less money in banks and more money owed on credit cards than any recorded time in the US history for me here in the United States. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad data. So, we talked offline, there's a different needs of skills at different stages. And it's not just the stage of your business growth, it's also the economic cycle that you're in. So, whatever economic cycle you find yourself in might determine what chapter you want to jump to, because sometimes you want to become a strategist because you need to innovate or you're going to die. Real estate's a great example of that. Everyone's trying to play the old game of commissions, and they're trying to figure out, how they can compete. That comes up a lot, And then I have other clients that were ahead of that. Or I got a friend, never a client. They did 100% commission. They just shook the whole industry up, and they're always at the top in the United States as fastest growing companies because they don't even play with that game anymore. They're like, we should be good enough. You pay us to be in our environment. So they charge agents to work underneath their brand as a membership fee, but they take zero commissions. Isn't that great? I mean,
Wow.
just so many industries. Construction's an old dog. Like it carries a burden of bad habits around at times. So they'll come in and want to just grab a whole chapter on how to target the fewer, better buyers. And
Mhm.
we can transform an entire, like a roofing company. One of the early days, Chet and I worked with Simon Roofing. Good old Jim. It's now passed on to another, I think his cousin. I think he said a nephew of his maybe runs it, or a cousin now, but he was only at like $50 million, and boom, they're at $111 million last time we spoke to him, more than doubled, all by targeting these better buyers. And so
Mm.
just pull up the chapter you need when you need it, kind of thing. It's a
Yeah.
book you probably won't put down. You'll start at the beginning, go to the end, but at any given time, pull that out. It'll serve you. It's a obviously you could tell I'm the biggest fan of the book. I buy that book for all of my clients to this day. If they said they haven't read it, that's the first thing I asked you. Did you read it? If not, I was going to mail it to you, man.
That's awesome. So much to unpack there, but let's just focus on you. You're talking about different business cycles, recessions, and things like that. What are the things that you are telling some of your clients now?
Well, you'd have to be dead, dumb, deaf, blind, not to be able to recognize there's a change in an economic season. The seasons are so when we partner with Tony Robbins, we did it like this. We'd have a couple thousand people come to our events, and we'd say, "Hey, you know what the summer season looks like, right? It's hot, but you've got a lot of growth during that time, and you keep your head down and you keep doing the work. It may be a grind, but you're getting tons of gains. And then in the autumn, that's where you reap your harvest. That's where you're just taking it in. You're taking it in and taking it in. Times are really good because, hey, it's very profitable to just reap those benefits. But when winter hits, is it the best time for you to plant a new seed? Like, I was telling you I planted my garden, but it snowed this morning. It was like a layer of snow and all my little celery sticks are like, "Meow." Does it make sense to go plant a seed in the middle of winter? So self-awareness to know what your nation's cycle is economically, and then to know what your industry's cycle is. So how do I respond? And I think people have been lazy. They've been, because fall, autumn, it makes for really good times for people. Tats, I mean, think of it. If you're just reaping the benefits, you're living high off the hog, you know what I mean? Who wants to dive in, head first into winter? Nobody. But how long are you going to deny it? You're asking what I'm sending out to my clients. The data, it's pretty profound. I mean, it's a sad side of what's going on out there. I've got some data that says savings accounts are at 3.5%. That's lowest in 17 years. People owe more on credit cards than ever before. $940 billion, Tats. And all the unemployment data seems to be getting manipulated just for political purposes. So become self-aware, get honest. And I think when the banks started foreclosing um, in Silicon Valley, I think that woke some people up. People like, are we going into a recession or not? And they're like, okay, I've seen this habit before. I know what we're about to go through. And so for me personally, I went through, the .com going dot bust, 2008. We had a COVID recession, and then now. So it's just like use self awareness, pay attention. Good advice is contextual. What's my next best strategy and tactic to best grow my company right now based on these conditions? Self awareness, as trite as that sounds, Tats.
Yeah. So, I mean, how much of it is, looking at costs? How much of it is optimization? You said planting seeds. Are you talking about holding back on new initiatives, focusing on fundamentals? What are
You
you
know
talking
what? What a great freaking question. Like, that's a really good question. And Harvard Business Review had done research on all the recessions before and answered that question. And it's so great that you say that because at most everyone guessed it wrong. 91% guessed it wrong. Like everyone's like, well, I'm just gonna lay everyone off. That's it. We got to cut like 20, 30%. Just, cut the workforce the best we can. And they raced to the bottom. And I get why they were doing that. But if that's all they did, they didn't succeed. Again, the data on this showed only 9% grew revenues and profits, while the majority floundered. They had 85% floundering. And then there was a ton that unknowingly just got annihilated, right? It just they can even survive, let alone not being unprofitable, not only, surviving in debt, but like just no survival. And there was a balance between proactive. There was a great example. I got a write up on this somewhere. I was so enthralled. I should probably just cite the Harvard Business Review that did it. They were looking at different companies, and I think it was Staples that did this thing. There was Office Depot and Staples. So one said, "Let's just go hack people out." The other one was more of like a strategist and said, "Okay, we can reduce the talent, we can reduce the size of people, but let's methodically look at." Instead of lowering employee headcount, because that's the biggest expense for all companies, stats. Instead, they said, let's find the stores strategically that maybe aren't as profitable in the least growing economic conditions. Let's move some of those employees to this other store and let's add the top talent. Let's have compensation plans for the best type of talent we can have. And let's go find innovative ways to invest in our future while mitigating the risk of winter. So they were prep. It's kind of like me and my growing. I got a 6 millimeter plastic over the top of my greens on one of the beds. They had no problem from last night's snow. One, I have a frost sheet, so the snow didn't lay on it. But where the plants were out exposed, the snow hit it and they all wilted over. So the 6 mil worked better than all of them. The frost blanket did good, but we know who did worst. So that's like the analogy is like how if you're going to grow during the winter, be smart enough and get a 6 mil cover. Demand yourself to recruit the best talent. And here's what they did. They ate their direct competitors' lunch. The other one cut deeper, was more stingy, trying to race to EBITDA, better EBITDA, and they ironically shot themselves in the foot. They didn't realize the one thing their competitor picked up on. During tough times, there's a land grab for market share. So when spring hits and things start growing, now that you own a larger percent of market share, the growth is compounding. It's exponential. And so they had 100% rate of growth. It was insane. The rate of growth, it had, doubled as compared to before and their competitors. So they were, I think, 3 times increase in profit and growth the way they measured it. Threefold compared to the competitor who said, I'm only reducing and letting Uncle Tommy go. Isn't that the case? Like we all have someone on the job site that was there because of nepotism, but maybe it's time to let them go in the middle of the winter economic season. But how can you also be proactive and say, how can I go out and get the best ideal clients? How can I make sure I'm keeping only my better staff? Like if you're going to have to let someone go, Tats, why not use that as a motivational force for people to wake up and say, I need to step up or I step out of this outfit
Yeah.
versus being lazy, letting staff members get apathy and hide, hoping to hang on to their job. No, you start cracking that whip by, we're letting some people go, but we empathetically go, but the people that are saying, I want to reward you handsomely, I want to double down with you and look at how can we reward them meeting and exceeding key performance indicators in the job site. This is fundamental management. Management's doing things right, but leadership is required during tough times, Tats, because that's doing the right things. Balance your leadership and management in winter economic seasons. You'll just eat your competitor's lunch every day of the week.
Okay. Makes sense. Use the tough times to set up for the good times, right? You basically how you handle the tough times basically defines you as a company.
These next few years may be the most impactful of your business career. This may be more important to you. These next few years may dictate your future more than any others. It's not in what we see. Like it's not in the sky rise. Like my uncle had a construction company, we're doing concrete, and we're doing this museum. And all the time is building the foundation, taking the time to get the foundation right. And there's mistakes made along the way. Like a crane fell into the hole. The outriggers just fell away. It just dropped into a hole. So imagine this big crane's tipped over. And my uncle's up there trying, with a sledgehammer hitting a pin. Just the worst move in the world. I mean, I can only speak about it now because OSHA's, that I don't think they're not going to go back 40 years and, hang them for it. But like literally when the pin let loose, this machine uprighted that way, my uncle got thrown 30 feet. No exaggeration. It was just they had death written all over it. Massive mistakes were made. But the time to do it right, like you may make mistakes along the way, but we put in the work ethic to get the foundation right. When it builds springtime and the building grows up vertically and like overnight, everyone just watches a hole and hears noise. Pylon just being driven nonstop. They just hear that forever. But then out of the middle of nowhere, like almost overnight, the building's just right. The carpenters are just blown through it. So think of it like that. Like it's really taking the time to do it right. It's
Yeah.
it's so gonna set you up.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you
We
talked
we
about market conditions, but let's take that foundation analogy and apply it to revenue size because I think you've talked about this in some of your material. what's the foundation at 1 million? What's the foundation at, let's say, that roughly 5 million range and higher? Like, what are the things that need to be in place for a business owner to be successful?
That's a really good. I did a whole thing on this. And I was like, will anyone want to read this? Really, it was, I went through and I said, what are all the stages that you need at 1 million at, like, so I'll tell you right out of the gate. So you start a really small company. They have jobs. What are the three jobs? First, to generate revenue because new startups always have a cash flow problem. Like I wanted to go start I wanted to retrofit light systems back in the day, like in the 90s. We had these rolling blackouts, and I left Purdue University so I can go become an entrepreneur. But to facilitate this job, I landed this gig. I need about 2 million bucks. I didn't have access to capital. So I just went and got a job for another company that had that and brought that to the table, and they were able to facilitate it. So, A, getting clients is a delta, but getting clients that are profitable is another thing, right? So, how do we do it profitably? And then, how do you do it in a scalable market? So, like in 2004, I started niching out because they say riches and niches. So I niched out and serving chiropractors. And then what happened is after 2 years, I had 7,000 chiropractors. Yay, I learned how to get clients. Along the way through a partnership with this one guy, we even did it profitably. Yay. But then I went to the major conference in Las Vegas, and you know what they shared? There are only 70,000 licensed chiropractors in the United States. I had 10% of the marketplace stats. I was done. Everyone else is cheering. I'm crying. I came home to my wife. I said, we're done. I go, our model is done. 2 years and we're done. So we got to throw a wide net. Never again, no more. I said, none of this riches and niches crap. That's just someone on a microphone on a stage said it, and I believed it. Didn't mean it was true. So find a scalable market. Once you could do those three things, you can get somewhere. Along the way, they realize, okay, great. I need to recruit someone other than me to do everything. So they need to learn that skill. Then they need to learn how to better manage. They need to, how to have the business run more without them. And at some stages, they need systems. Geez, at some point, I don't know, like tech stack. Simon Roofing was at $50 million, and they had salespeople calling on people at large square roofs. And their biggest problem is they were always getting sent down to like a facilities manager. Well, you can't have a marketing firm that's seeking out decision makers here and salespeople on the front lines using a CRM over here, and it not all it not tied together. And then you can't go to the website and they talk about product all the time. You go talk to a salesperson, they're painting a compelling future. They go to another department and they're saying something else. Now their message is not even unified. So sometimes on a tech stack, you bring homogeneous communication together. You get the ability that a CEO can now better manage a company because they have a dashboard and one-stop shop. So sometimes it's a tech stack for you to move towards an exit or take in some VC money, or if you just want to have it passed down through a different generation, like Jim decided to do. Each stage, you're going to see 1, 2 million based on if they're solo, if they have a second in command, is a hiccup. 5 million's a hiccup. 10, $11 million, a hiccup in that zone. 25, $30 million, another hiccup. 50 hiccup. 100, 125 million hiccups. Right? I need to get the correct C-suite, real C-suite executives, which means they have to probably flesh out overpaid VPs that were legacy people. And founders hate doing that because they were my buddies from back in the day, but the people that got you here might not be the people that are going to get you there. So those are pretty standard. I can pretty much tell where people are at when they give me feedback on what their challenges are facing. I mean, after having 25,000 clients pay me to learn how to go through each of these stages, it's a little bit of a hump, right? But you just gotta, again, back to self-awareness. Like so few people are self-aware to say, here's where I'm at. I'm logically facing this challenge. I'm at, $11.7 million. I do an employee, acknowledgement business. And he's like, but I take 50% of the time on my RV. That sounds great. But what he doesn't realize is how much of the company is based on him alone. He is the visionary. He may spend his time in an RV, but he still shows up every single week for a weekly mandatory meeting. He's still intimately involved. He probably thinks he can sell his company. He can't, because anyone going to buy the company can see a mile away. He is the reason this company is great, and he's looking to retire. So why would I buy the great a company's assets to just have it become an expense when the greatest asset's going to retire? Not interested. So enough self-awareness to say where I'm at now, and also what type of leader do I need to be to get my business closer to where I really desire it. That takes a self-aware human being, someone who's willing to look in the mirror and recognize their EBITDA, their profits, their growth as a reflection of their own personal skills. You
Mm,
as a business owner, a CEO, this company, if I wish we were working on more roofs or whatever type of industry that you have. Well, that's a reflection of your skills.
mm.
That someone's got to be willing to do that. And I don't know what's going on with society. Everyone's all trying to do this kumbaya thing, act like everything's better than it is. Everyone's softening everything. There's no value in softening that. Like, where don't don't you have a coach or a mentor that can just shoot it to you straight? Like, do you have to be offended by the truth? Face the reality of your circumstance. Face it faster. You'll come out stronger. Or be in denial. That's right. Not everyone needs to become our client. Right? That's the most people fail. 85 floundered according to them. So I'm looking for the 9%. I love to
Yeah.
work with those that are saying, you know what? I don't want to become a number. I didn't work for 10 years of my life on this current iteration. I've been in this industry for 30 years just to get chewed up and spit out because of a simple recession. I
Yeah.
won't participate in recessions. Let's rise above it.
Yeah. So I'm particularly interested in like, let's say not to the one, but let's say the five and up. So like, and I'm assuming it's different for different people, but let's say for the type of clients that you've worked with over the years, what are the leadership self awareness things that propel them through that? Let's say five or up. Like, what are the things that you've had to shoot straight at them and say, look, this is this about you, or how you're doing this.
Well, great question. First, to get there, they need to be willing to ask the same question 3 times. So, what's your single greatest challenge in getting your business closer to where you want it to be? So, think of anyone you've ever interviewed, someone you've spoken to, a client, anyone. Just think of their circumstance and then answer that question for me. Don't worry, I won't drill you. I'm just going to use it as an example. So I ask, all right, what's your single greatest challenge? What are they going to tell me?
Let's say, scaling the sales team or whatever.
Okay, great. So scaling the sales team. So they say scaling, they don't even know what scaling means. They probably mean grow because they want more. And the reason they think they want more is they want more revenue. And they see salespeople as the reason they were going to get more revenue. So they're living in a smoke and mirrors of I've done it this way and I just want more. Well, that's called more itis. Itis is an inflammation. That's a disease commonly. So your body, when it inflames, like my daughter, she's not at school today. She's at home because she dislocated her knee. It gets inflamed. And I'm telling her, you've got to move. She's like, she doesn't want to move. I go, well, wear the brace, don't move, and watch it swell because your body is designed to let it move through you. You need to get that acid moving. So you need to have some motions that you're safe to move through or physically get massaged because your adrenals are all shot and you need to let that flow. So either exercise or physical massage. So same thing in business. So if they're saying, okay, I need to scale my sales team, I go, okay, what's your biggest challenge you have in scaling your sales team? And they're going to be like, well, I got 6 salespeople. Okay, how many of those 6 sales people are stars? Well, I got, 1, 2. Okay, are you the best salesperson? Well, I am. Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. But I got one that's really promising. He's doing really well. He's making good money. Okay, so you got 6 salespeople. That means 5 that aren't top producers. Yeah, I got 2 others are pretty good. Okay, then that means you got 2 others 3 others. Yeah, I got 3 others. Then why are they on board? Like, are you pipping them? Performance improvement plan. Are you inviting them to step up or step out? So maybe you need to cleanse your environment before you add more salespeople. Maybe you need to stop taking the leads you have and dispersing them, half of your leads to half of your weakest salespeople. Maybe you need to be pipping out your weakest reps while you're trying to recruit a better quality rep by raising your freaking standards, as trite as that sounds. So that's a management issue. That's you're allowing apathy, meaning you don't have a strong culture, you don't have good management, and so you thought it's a salesperson problem, it's a you problem. And so if you add more to that, you add more chaos, you add more expense, you add twice the people that aren't producing. Now you went from 3 to 6 underperforming staff members in the midst of a recession. How can you carry that burden on your back? Who's paying for that? That comes out of their own personal pockets.
Yeah.
You, as
So
a
you're ta
founder at 5 million, you're paying for all that out of your retirement. That didn't come out of thin air.
yeah. So
So
possible
that
points are like better recruitment, better training, sort of higher standards, better
themselves start
leads.
with them at that small of a company. Yeah, you don't you can't even point a finger at anyone. You're so close to it. You need to improve your skills the way you better manage. Like, and
Got
then you're right. That the skills are better recruitment. You nailed it. Performance improvement plans, making sure you pip them. Do you have a way to where it's, or is it doom and gloom on pip? Like a lot of people, if they see a pip coming across their table, they think they're getting let go. Well, that shows your culture. You don't love on your staff members. Like if someone's struggling, you should take it personal and say, I dropped the ball on you. If you're not performing above or minimal acceptance level, I failed you somewhere. You should lean in to look at what kind of training they need and provide that training as a leader. And you say, okay, I lean in. So that's all a reflection of you. At 5 to 10 million, you want to look at everything through first as a mirror before you go. So you're saying personal growth, see the window out to your business. First, check it up as a mirror, level up yourself, then go through you to your team.
nice.
From
Nice.
but once you're at like 30 million, it's because of your presence. What you're doing is now you are the person who's working through the ecology of your team to keep it healthy and strong so the best can rise up. So you're doing nothing but anchoring down culture, vision, culture, vision. That's the CEO's job from like that $30 million up. They're going to be talking about that for quite some time. So, yeah, but you would have to know where you're at on that. So 5 million, it's all about the founder and that CEO. It's all a direct reflection of their skills.
Yeah,
They're
makes
the
sense.
reason for all things, good and bad.
Perfect. In terms of partnerships, you've partnered with many different groups for whatever. How do you approach that? I mean, because you've worked with some very successful people in different ways. So,
Yeah,
is there a
the biggest
formula?
names.
Yeah.
Yeah, the formula is give, and not expect anything in return. But no one wants to hear that. Everyone wants to know about like the trick that was pulled, and I can tell you some really cool tricks that were pulled, but it's all on a foundation of giving. I'll give you an example. I learned. I'm going to tip my hat to Chet Holmes. I I went off. I used his strategies. He called me because one of my previous business partners worked for him as a sales guy, and he asked him one day. He goes, "Who's the best salesperson you've ever met in your life?" He goes, "Ted Miller." And he goes, "Okay, can I get his number? I want to call him and recruit him." So this guy I just hired as that I didn't even hire. I hired Jay Abraham that I met through that, who helped me. 2 years later, I get a random phone call. Like the other guy, Mike, texted me and said, "Hey, this guy's going to call you. He wants to recruit you, and he has a unique process. So just trust me on this. Call me when it's done." So anyhow, I got on the phone. We did this, and in that first conversation, he goes, "We're going to partner with Tony Robbins." And I was like, "The personal growth guy? Like, why would we do that?" He's like, "Oh, you don't understand." And he's got this vision. And I was like, "Okay, great." So he had already been chasing him for years. So we're like fast forward 4 more years later, and we're still trying to like win this guy over. And he's struggling to fill his events because he was trying to do these things called TNTs, Tony Not There. He was busy being on the road all the time. Sage, his wife, is frustrated. He's never present. And he's just trying to find a better quality of life. So he's trying to do these TNTs. So we saw one of his biggest challenges was getting clients. So we said, let's lean in and help him. Like that's what you do. If you're trying to nurture any kind of relationship, you want to be the contributor. right? If you can. So we helped him write better ads. His ads are like, "Hi, if you like to, break through and come to UPW," on a radio ad. It was in Florida Market. He now lives there, but back then he was somewhere else. And so I'm like, all right, how many ads you running? We're running 4 ads. He goes, give us one of the four. And our one outproduced the other combined because of educational based marketing. Instead of saying, hey, if you like to look better, feel better, live longer, come walk on fire, you be, get people pumped up. Instead, it was all neofrontal cortex. We got them to think. And we said, hi, this is Tony Robbins. After working with 3 to 5 million people around the world or something like that, I learned there are 6 fundamental human needs. Call us to learn what these 6 fundamental human needs are. No matter what race, religion, dogma you come from, these are 6 drivers that dictate human behavior. Find out what these are now. Call us at. And that one ad pulled the other 3 combined. That got his attention fast. We solved one of the biggest problems that all of his staff members couldn't solve. All of his great marketing staff members, and they had top talent, weren't solving. And we came along like rock stars and like, poof, that accelerates relationships. And that was 4/5, 04/05. We signed the contract in '08. Like, it doesn't go fast. Like, people expect these things to happen overnight. So it was '08 we signed the contract. That Chet had spent 12 years of his life, a solid decade of pursuing. In the last 2, we pretty much knew we were going to partner. It was just a matter of working stuff out. Things move slower than people think when you're looking at real strategic partners. Everything short of it's a JV. So contribute, 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 contribute. Find a way to add value to people's lives. Solve the greatest challenges that they have, as if they were your own problems, and then you'll naturally find a way to get in a partnership. And we did. And it was great. We pioneered a thing called Business Mastery. People can go to it 5 days long, 10 grand. What a hoot. Tony would bring in billionaires we didn't have access to. He'd bring in like really famous people and rappers, musicians. It was a fun time. Pitbull loved it. He was at every show. So yeah, you could partnerships. I think people are too busy watching like some of our past clients act like it's easy. Like Russell Brunson, God bless his soul. Like, he went from 0 to 100 million in 4 years. So everyone thinks they do that in 4 years. They don't see the grind he put in. He wasn't there. I was training him. No one else was, when he was trying to figure out what's he going to be when he grows up, kind of deal. So now he tells everyone, hey, people that changed our life, Dream 100 changed everything. And then they come secret shop us and they all think that kind of partnership takes over. No, like, he slowly but surely got into our circle. He went to our speakers, authors networking group. Slowly but surely gets to meet these people. Now he's got this thing called mastermind.com. But I can tell you the time that he first met that person, and it was 5 years later until he spent enough money to pay Tony to go speak at his event. That was a 10-year journey just for him to get to mastermind.com. But everyone on the internet's acting like it's taken overnight. So, Tats, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear it. But I will tell you, some of the greatest things, like Simon Roofing is an example. Once they crack their code to get better clients than all clients, the best thing they can do is go JV. And so the way they did it is, instead of waiting, like, one of the moves you can use is you could just buy the company. Right now is a great time to buy your competitors out. Like, they're doing roofing, roofing, roofing. Well, guess what? You need asphalt, you need concrete, you need, so you could just go out and buy these other competitors that are struggling, because you cracked your marketing code and you got momentum in this one area. It's in your best interest to pick them up on the song. You might just pick up the materials or the staff that you need, that you can't seem to find anywhere else, just by buying out the company, because someone's like, I'm aged out. I don't want to go through another recession. That takes me about 7 years on average to recover from it. So I don't have another 7 years. I just want to retire. And they sell out. So just go buy the piece of that company that you need on a song. So if you want strategic partnerships, long play. But if what you really want is something that they have, just buy them, Tats. Just buy them when it's cheap. And that's right now. If you're trying to sell, wrong time, brother. You waited too late. More often than not, right now is not the best time you could be selling. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Um,
Partnerships don't come easy, Tats.
I love that
Partnerships don't come
story.
easy.
Um, Ted, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share? Like, I love the stories.
Uh, we all do this because we want freedom. We somewhere along the line started out because we wanted freedom, right? My family, we were in ghettos. We were broke, and we just didn't want to be broke. So we did construction because my uncle tried driving trucks, and that didn't work. He went broke doing that, lost his house, and then rebuilt, started doing another thing. And okay, cracked the code here. And the irony along the way is we say we're starting our business for freedom, and then 10, 20, 30 years later, we feel like we're strapped to our job. And we're not strapped. You're not a victim. God or whatever you believe in that's greater than you is giving you this adversity as a sign saying something can change for you to get back on path to the thing that you say you want, which is autonomy, freedom. Go embrace the suck on that. Go lean into the pain on the backside of the pain of fixing your systems, the pain of building a better culture. Embrace the suck, and on the backside, you'll say it's the best darn thing you've ever done. Think of anything you're proud of right now, Tats. It probably didn't come to you easily. This moment right now that's tough may be the best moment you've ever had and may finally get you the thing you've been chasing for such a long time, true autonomy. I hope people can take that to their hearts because that's, I'd say, majority of founders. It's like 70% every time we ask them at our seminars, we have thousands of people. Why did they do it? And once we get around the freedom, hands jump up real fast. So it's plausible. It's there. Yeah, you can have your cake and eat it too. Yeah, you just might need to let go of some limiting beliefs and improve a lot of skills.
Sounds good. Sounds like, yeah, personal development and being intentional.
No, yeah, intentional. Intention is key because that's before you be, do, then have. Everyone else is trying to go through the road of pain. I need to go have the skills. I need to go have the assets. Then I can go do what I need to do, and someday I'll become that. No, you be it first, then you do it, and let go, let God on the have. That's
Yep,
just something that will take care of itself. On the front end of that is your intention. So intention, be, do, have. Path to those that are fulfilled. That's for
wonderful.
sure.
Ted, thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you.
wealth of information.
Appreciate you, Tats.